Hello, everyone. I'm John Evans. Welcome to another episode of One on One. The helmet, the uniform, the badge, the motorcycle, and that $1 million smile turned Erik Estrada into a full-fledged TV star back in the late 70s when the show CHiPs made its debut on NBC. Well, now, 45 years after that breakthrough role, Erik Estrada's new project is about to make its debut. It's called Divine Renovation. It's a home improvement show with a faith-based twist. When season 1 shot here in Wilmington last year, Erik said it took him back to a feeling he got from his very first movie role. Erik Estrada, welcome to the One on One with John Evans podcast, my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Evans. It's a pleasure. I'm glad I'm here. And I can't wait I'll be coming to Wilmington this year for a little screening and a lunch.
Season 1 is in the books. Did it add up to be everything you wanted it to be or more?
Actually, I'm very, very pleased by it. I really enjoyed it. At the same time, personally, I said to myself, I said, what a cool thing. At my age, at my autumn of my career kind of thing, it's a wonderful thing to have out there. It's just a really good hug you vibe. It's uplifting. Yeah, I loved it. And I'm going to love the next season that we're doing.
Now, we visited you on the set, and we learned about all the different faith-based organizations that were helping, at least the day I was out there, Kelly and Dax, redo some of the house, put a play area in the backyard for Dax. Why did you take this job? Was it because of the faith-based background, or did you think that maybe helping people might be something that you really wanted to get involved in?
It's for a couple. It's a couple of reasons. First of all, when I started in this, I was going to be a New York City police officer. That's what I wanted to be. Then I got bit by the acting bug, chasing this lovely girl into a drama club at high school. And so I chased the acting. And my very first movie that I auditioned for, 6 callbacks, all improvisation, called The Cross and the Switchblade, Christian movie. And I played Nikki Cruz in it. And so ever since that movie, and then I went on to do other things, a lot of TVs and it's good movies, bad movies, a lot of TV, and then a series and soap operas and stuff like that. But ever since that movie, I always felt that God maybe has something for me in store as far as spreading the word, but I won't be thumping, but I would be involved. And I've done some 4 other Christian movies since then. And this has got a real nice spiritual aura about it because it's about human kindness, it's about compassion, and it's about helping your fellow man. We're paying it forward because some of us were lucky to have a good career, good income, and be able to accomplish things that we wanted to do. So when Monty approached me, I said, sure, why not? Let's do it. And he approached me because he liked my numbers demographically and stuff like that. And then also because he knew about my Christian movie work that I've done, at least 5 of them. I call them silent but deadly Christian movies, We're not thumping.
I'm told you're going to start shooting season 2, I guess, up in the Northeast pretty soon. You've been acting ever since that first movie back in 1970 now for what, 53 years. When do you see yourself starting to slow down, Erik?
Oh, God. I don't think, if I'd have been a plumber, I'd still be working 53 years. It's just that I'm one of those. I started working at the age of 5 with my grandfather.
Right, selling snow cones.
Right. He would take me with him. And so I've got to keep busy. I like being busy, and I like things that involve people, where I'm with people, I have to deal with people or around people, because I'm a people guy. And God is a people guy too.
Yep. He sure is. You grew up in Harlem. You told us the story last time we spoke to you
Yeah.
that you really wanted to move your mom out of Harlem, which is one
That
of the
was
reasons why you really started with the acting bug. But what drove you to go to California? Did somebody tell you, hey, come out here? What was the
no,
impetus before going all the way across country?
no, because I got my first movie out of auditioning in New York, and then I went back to being a waiter because you in between work you got to have some kind of change coming in,
Hmm.
especially we were welfare recipients then, and I wanted to help out. And being the boy of the house, the man of the house, so to speak, I wanted to help out. When I did my first movie, it was great. 6 months later, another movie came by and I auditioned for it. I got it, and I flew out to California to do it. The New Centurions with George C. Scott. And then I went back to New York, finished the movie, went back to working at Sign of the Dove on 60th Street and Third Avenue, and it's still there as a waiter. And it's to pay for my classes and pay to help out. Then I got a Hawaii 5-0. So they flew me all the way from Harlem to Hawaii. That was awesome.
Wow.
9 days, the whole thing, 9 days. Great time in Hawaii. First time. I loved it. And then I finished. I went back to New York. Meanwhile, the movie's out. The movies came out at the end of that year. They were out. And they were playing in theaters on Broadway and 42nd Street. They were out. And I was in New York. I should have been in California.
Hmm.
I could have gone up for other roles and stuff, reaped the harvest of the popularity that's on the street, the movies on the street. Well, I
Right.
didn't. So Hawaii 5-0 said, you got to come to California because we got to loop you some sounds to shoot, to dub the TV show for some sounds they were ambient noise. So I said to my mom, I'm going to cash my check in, not my check, my ticket. My return ticket, I'm going to cash it in and I'm going to stay in California. I know, mijo, please, Papo, no, no, no. I said, man, I got to do it because these movies broke over here and I'm not getting anything from them. I should have been in California. Then I came to California, cashed it in, moved into a room about as big as my office right now, my den. And I lived there for 3 years. And for 3 years, I didn't get another job until I got a small bit on Emergency.
Hmm.
And you know what it was? There was a burning building and they were carrying out on a gurney a guy. And my line was, oh, that was my line. I was burned.
And you still nailed it again 52 years later.
I kept at it. Then eventually I did Airport 75, Midway, the original Midway. God, I was lucky enough to be in on the old school guys, Henry
Hmm.
Fonda, Glenn Ford, Robert Mitchum.
That's what I was going to ask you that. I mean, you were all over TV in the 70s with,
Yes,
$6 Million Man, Emergency, Mannix,
Medical
and
Center.
then you land Midway and it's Fonda, it's Glenn Ford, it's Charlton Heston. Were you
Yes.
just learning from these legendary characters?
Oh yeah, they were real gentlemen, and they were really cool with me because they looked at me as a street urchin, but with a lot of git. They they treat Charlton Heston and Glenn Ford just treated me really sweet. Really nice guys. And then because they probably saw a lot of them in me as a young man looking for it, right? And my motivation was my mom to get her out of the thing and have her living well. And
Hmm.
I did. Thank God. Chips gave me that. And I did, and it was wonderful. And I had my mother set up on 57th and 8th Avenue. First, I bought her a house out here in
Hmm.
Tarzana, California. She sat in it. I went to pick her up on a Saturday afternoon to go to lunch. And I could tell that she was been upset, crying. I could just tell because I knew my mom. And I said, Mom, what's the matter? What happened? Did neighbors say something to you? Who said what, Mom? Tell me. Tell me. I go clock them. Tell me. No, Papo, mijo. She used to call me Papo. That was my street name. And she said, Ay, Papo, mijo, I want to go back to New York. She wanted to go back to New York.
Right.
So I said, okay, Mom, whatever you want.
Yeah.
So I moved her to 57th and 8th Avenue in a brand new building on the 27th floor overlooking Tavern on the Green and a chunk of the park. And she was happy, and I took care of everything for 31 years until she passed. So it was wonderful. That was my motivation.
Right. When you started with CHiPs, did you
Yes.
have an idea that it could be as successful as it was? I mean, you had all these other opportunities and they were successful, but
Yeah.
was there something on that set? Was there something with the show, the scripts that you said, this might go for a couple of years?
I realized that after the first 16 shows. I realized that because I was getting bushels. I was getting duffel bags of mail at MGM all the time. And it was very exciting. And I was so happy that this was going because I was able to accomplish what I wanted to do financially with my mom. So anyway, yeah, I didn't know it was going to be 47 years later, still airing every day on Charge TV, airing all over Europe because I still get mail from Germany, Italy, France, fans. I still get it. South Africa. It just keeps repeating and repeating and repeating. They put it on 6 months, take it down, they put it back up. Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be so awesome, but I knew one thing every time. I always wanted to be a cop. You know that.
Right.
Since I was 4. At 17, I changed my mind when I got bit by the bug. But that feeling never went away. But when I used to get to work and put the uniform on, get on the bike to go to the set to film, it was great. I enjoyed it. I already had the passion for law enforcement. So I was 90% there. Only 10% just learned the lines and get on it. No, I loved it. I loved the show. I loved doing it. I thank God that I got it. I was lucky to have it because when I auditioned for it, it was I lost the first. I auditioned for 3 different shows. One I lost to Desi Arnaz Jr. The other one I lost to Patrick Wayne, and they didn't flourish into a series. Then CHiPs came up, and then boom, I got it.
You didn't know how to ride a motorcycle at the time, did you?
No, I was good in the subway and the buses at home. No, I did. I didn't. I didn't know how to ride a motor. They taught me. They sent a Scott Wilson training officer from Sacramento. So while we're filming, he would be teaching us how to do the figure eights, the slow moving maneuvers, the pulling up to a stop sign, not putting your feet down, and then accelerating out. Yeah, it was all that stuff. So that was good. But as soon as they taught me to be a real good motorcycle rider, that's when I started having accidents.
I read that you had a bad one that, if I'm not mistaken, Larry had a pretty big role in actually getting you medical treatment.
Yeah, 7 Mary 3 was right there. I punctured, collapsed my lungs, fractured 12 ribs, broke this wrist, as you could tell. See, look, that's normal. That's not.
Yeah.
This is normal. This is not.
What happened?
Yeah, I was bleeding out. I was chasing a car on the motorcycle, and we rehearsed it, and then we shot it. Then it was over, and then they said, "No, we got to do it again." There was a hair in the lens. I was bleeding internally out. Punctured my lungs. They were filling up. It was turning blue. Larry who had been to Vietnam, saw the signs, and he went down there and reached down and held my hand, kept me focused on his face. They wouldn't let me close my eyes, kept me going until the helicopter came, to CHP helicopter, to take me to UCLA so they could cut me open. And I wouldn't allow them at the hospital to cut me open. They wanted to see if I ruptured my aorta. And I said, "No, you're not cutting me open. Sorry," because in my mind, if you ever get cut open, you're never the same. I don't know, it's a street thing. Who knows? So they shot me with dye in every artery and vein and everything, and x-rayed me and flipped me back and forth. So since I was good, I took a couple of weeks. I was in intensive care for like 7 days, and then 2 weeks recovery. And then I went to Hawaii for 3 weeks to chill out. And then MGM came, said, "Please come back to work, please." And so I made him do a few things before I came back.
I had not known this until I did some research for today's interview, but I saw an interview where you said you got blacklisted in Hollywood. What was that part of the kind of like the showdown you had with the network over CHiPs?
Yeah, it was over that because I had, during the years of the show, every year you get a little raise and you get a piece of the pie. as an annuity. It's called net profits participation. And I had acquired a total of 50% net profits, up to the fifth year. So MGM sold the show to Golden West Broadcast from Golden West Broadcast owned it. And then they sold it to Turner for syndication.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And I knew what the deal was. The deal was for so much money, they also MGM had to deliver 6 seasons of Erik Estrada's Punch. So that was my smoking gun, my muscle.
Right.
So I went into MGM, got with David Beagleman and said, hey, here, I brought in my attorneys that morning. My attorneys, I have contractually 50% net profit participation ownership. You guys just sold for syndication for a 10-year run. I want to draw up quarterly installment payment contract. And he said, nah, you got to wait for the show to be in syndication. You can't do that. And I said, no. I said, Fess Parker still never got 5% of his ownership from Daniel Boone from Universal. James Gardner was fighting on 60 Minutes about the 11 years it took him to get his Rockford Files net profits participation from Universal. And Robert Blake at the gym said to me, I was stupid. I said, why? Because I was telling him that, I acquired another for this season. I got another so many points. He says, you're stupid. I said, why? Why you say I'm stupid? He says, because I got 33 1/3% of Beretta. I'll sell it to you for 10 cents. You're never going to see your net profits participation because everybody keeps a second set of books. So that's why I took the thing to Beagleman. And Beagleman said, you got to wait for syndication. I said, no, you guys are selling MGM piece by piece. You sold the back lot. It's all condominiums now. And you're selling the library and you're selling this to Sony. Who am I going to call? Who's going to pick up my phone when I say, hey, where's my checks?
Yeah. So is that when you basically kind of said it's either this way or the highway?
Well, Beagleman knew that I wasn't going to walk and he knew I had a contract and all this. So what did they do? He tried to get me to do something that would enslave me. He got up and he said, listen, you come in here with your attorneys thinking you're this and that and all this and that. But when you came to Hollywood, you were nothing but a spit box boy.
Ooh.
Yeah, ooh is right.
Ooh.
But the thing is I knew what he wanted. And so I got like this. I got a big smile. I cracked up because I saw my attorneys turn super white. They didn't know what I was going to do. I got up and I said, Mr. Beagleman, when I was 5 years old, I was selling snow cones in Spanish Harlem with my grandfather when I was a kid. And then I graduated at Columbus Circle in front of the 1010 Winds radio station there, shining shoes on Saturdays and Sundays. And then I worked at Ajax Wash and Dry, 10 cents more, 75 cents. You can get bleach with your laundry. And then I worked at Yellow Fingers for many years as a waiter. But I never, ever boxed groceries. I said, okay.
Yeah.
You know what that means?
Yep.
Okay. And I walked off. And so they proceeded to sue me for $40 million and trash me and this and that and recast the role of Ponch because I didn't show up for work. Right. I wouldn't, they didn't want to settle with me. So they went ahead and hired Bruce Jenner to replace me for 7 shows. And Bruce was a great guy, so nothing on him. And after 7 shows, the show started tanking. And there was no way these boys were going to open their purse and give back any of that $75 million for a 10-year run back to the buyer. So they had to come and settle with me, and they did.
Good.
They settled with me. I went back to work. But the rumor on the street was that I won the battle, but I was going to lose the war.
Right.
So after that, for 10 years, it was hard. But I was so lucky that Chips was in 87 countries because I went to Thailand.
Because then you worked all around the world after that, right? You did movies like everywhere.
Yeah, Italy, Peru, Mexico, England, Thailand. just everywhere. I was working because of Chip's popularity. And then I did a soap opera that was only supposed to be 3 months. It lasted a year and a half, and most Latin soap operas only go 100 episodes. This one went 457. And beside that, it was the longest running, highest rated soap opera in Latin television. Still today, 27 years later, still is. And it was knocking out anything at 7 o'clock on the American stations. Nobody could get their in-house help to wash the dishes or mind the kids or put them to bed because all my buddies were buying second VHSs to record the show for the housekeeper. So it was great.
You have 3 kids. Did any of them decide to follow you into the entertainment business, or did you kind of push them away from that?
No, I let them be their own person, whatever their heart tells them. My daughter at 11 and 12 was doing acting and commercials and all that. And then when she got into high school, she said, I don't want to do it anymore, Daddy. I said, fine, darling, whatever you want. Now, you don't push people into those type of things. You let them decide if that's what they want, because it's going to take desire, personal desire, motivation. You're going, because it's a world of total rejection and disappointment, and a lot of plastic and silicone.
There's a lot of Erik Estrada TV shows and movies since Chips, but there's also a lot of Erik Estrada police badges. You're an officer, you're a deputy sheriff, so you're still active in law enforcement, which, like you said earlier, was really your first love growing up.
Yeah, well, 14 years ago, I got 14 years in it now. 14 years ago, I wanted to see if I still had that passion as a 4-year-old that I had. My mom got rid of my dad. He was a heroin addict, and she fired him. And then she started dating a cop. And that's where there's only 2 men in the world I ever loved. And that was my grandfather and this cop. Okay, as a 4-year-old. Can you dig it? So anyway, I wanted to be one. And as luck would have it, I gave it a shot. And I realized, hey, I dig it. But I was in Muncie, Indiana for 3 years as a reserve. And it was only supposed to be for a small period, but I kept going back, putting in my time. And I realized, man, this stuff is hard at night to work great. And somebody going to mess up your hair real bad at 2 or 3 in the morning at some bar. And so then I got involved with a sheriff out of Bedford County, Virginia, Sheriff Mike Brown. I got involved with him because the internet was starting to cook and groom a lot of online sexual predators were starting to groom children on the internet. And he wanted to put out a DVD so he could distribute to schools and parents and stuff, education on what not to do on the internet your child shouldn't be doing if he gets in chat rooms and so forth to protect themselves. And so I called him up and said, sir, my name is Erik Estrada. I'm a reserve police officer in Muncie, Indiana. And Shaquille O'Neal gave me your phone number. And so he says, oh, wait a minute, son, is you that fella?
Yeah.
Is you that fella on that motorcycle with the shiny teeth? I said, yeah. And he says, Janet, come on over here. I got old Poncherello on the phone. That's what Brown said, right? But he said it with his Blue Ridge Thunder voice. So I said, sir, I could be there tomorrow. And he says, well, call me up and let me know what time you come in. So I got my wife to buy me 2 tickets. I flew to Lynchburg, Virginia. And we went to Liberty University and did the PSAs, public service announcements, knocked them out. Boom, boom, boom. And then I was going to leave. And he says, no, don't leave. I want you to come with me somewhere. He took me the next morning to the Blue Ridge Mountains, way up in there, to some large cabin. And we opened the door. I walked in, and there were like 20 young men and women in uniform in chat rooms on computers. And they were in chat rooms.
Yeah.
14 and 13-year-old girls and boys with grown men and women on the other end trying to groom. And then one of them showed me a video, and I got really upset. And It's a funny thing. When I saw it, I got so upset because my daughter was like 7 then. I went outside, chilled for a couple minutes. And then after they being upset and emotionally blown out, I started getting really super angry, real mad. So then I went in and I said, Sheriff, I'd like to do this work. If you'll have me, I will leave Muncie, Indiana. He said, well, let me check out your schooling and give me a year to train you. And he did and did, and I did and I did, and I did it for 8 years there. Then he retired. So I said, well, I'm going to move over to Frederick County, where I am now, Virginia, with my boy, Lenny Mulholland, my sheriff. He re-election, he got it, and I've known him for a long time. So I went with him now, and that's where I am now. Yeah, I do the work, I do the time, and it's rewarding, but I do it for me. I don't publicize it, or I don't talk about it, because it's not for anybody else but for me and whatever kid I could save. That's it.
What do you want people to take away from Divine Renovations, Erik?
I want them to, you know what? However they get touched, that's theirs. But I want them to think about, there's so many people out there who need, there's so many people, especially today, but it's always been that way. There's always been need, you know. I could have been one of the recipients as a child in my house of this show of Divine Renovation. They could have come in and said, wow, you folks are living on welfare and you're getting by and no father in the house. We want to help. We want to give you air conditioning. We want to give you a new roof on your camper, whatever. That people just please keep an open mind that there are people, individuals out there and families that need a shot in the arm. They need a hand up. Be compassionate, be open. Don't be judgmental if somebody is in lower level financially than you.
Erik Estrada's new series, Divine Renovation, is set to launch July 1st on Up TV. It will then move to other streaming sites like Roku, Prime Video, Google Play, Encourage TV, and many more. Erik Estrada, thanks for taking the time for joining us on the One-on-One with John Evans podcast. Good to see you again, and we'll catch you when you come back to Wilmington soon.
Yes, we're going to have a little screening. You got to be there. You got to come to it, all right?
A big thank you to Erik Estrada for taking time out of his busy schedule to join us for this week's podcast interview. You can follow him on erikestrada.com and look for social media pages on Facebook and on Instagram for the Divine Renovation show as well. The show launches July 1st on the Up TV network, and soon thereafter you'll be able to find it on streaming sites like Roku, Prime Video, iTunes, and on Google Play as well. Now, before we go, I'd like to ask you a favor. Please follow and subscribe to the One-on-One with John Evans podcast on whatever app you use to listen to your favorite shows. And if you'd be so kind, please leave us a rating or a review. We'd love to hear what you think of our interviews, and the more feedback we have from friends like you, the higher we'll be listed on the apps, the better chance we'll have of bringing in even more new listeners. I'm John Evans. Thanks so much for joining us for this episode of One-on-One.